I don't know if you watched Nick Swardson on, then he called you Thiefer McSutherland.
Which is hilarious. We all know each other. So all I do is Nick as a friend is text him and go, hey man, heard you have a fajita bit. I have a new bit that I wrote about fajitas. You have a fajita bit? He goes, I have something like it. What's your premise?
Remember how Nick Swardson called out Brendan Schaub for essentially stealing one of his jokes while he was on Theo Von's podcast? Well, I actually made a video about this a few days ago. And in that video, I mentioned how important it is to address and eliminate any accusations of joke stealing at all, especially if you are a comic. Well, Brendan Schaub didn't take that long, and he actually just responded to Nick on their latest episode of The Fighter and the Kid, which actually just dropped not too long ago. And to be completely honest, Brendan Schaub gave a very, very interesting answer. So let's just get right into it. You can tell it was very important for Brendan Schaub to bring it up because they talked about it within the first 7 minutes of the podcast. And well, although they were very nice to Nick, saying that he's a good guy, how much they liked him, all the good stuff, Brendan Schaub was actually clapping back and said something that exposed Nick in a way. Brendan Schaub was addressing the joke stealing accusations, saying how he knew that people were saying that he stole Nick's joke in the past. And I also mentioned this in the past, how we all know that this is not news. This is not breaking news. The video and the rumors are things that are passed among Brendan Schaub haters to try and expose Brendan Schaub as a joke thief. And it's been available for everybody to see on the subreddit. So the fact that Nick decided to bring it up now, out of nowhere, I think was a bit weird to me. And sure, Nick didn't directly call out Brendan Schaub word for word, but he still brought it up. This whole thing, like I said, was out there, but Nick talking about it made it relevant. I mean, here we are talking about it. So I really do wonder what his intentions were with it. Now, here is where things get really, really interesting.
Swardson on Theo Von.
I don't watch anybody else's podcast.
But Nick was like, I'm Brian Callen. I'm going to beat him up when I see him. I'm going to beat Nick up. We're going to get him on the podcast. And he's going, I'm Brian Callen. Nick Swardson, one of my favorite people in the world.
He's the best.
I love him. And then he's called you Thiefer McSutherland.
Which is hilarious. Remember when he was on The Fighter and the Kid back in the old studio?
Yeah.
And he roasted us? He said I look like an Italian Lego.
He's the greatest. Good. Nick is the great. I just talked to him.
He's the funniest guy of all time.
I just talked to him recently. He's doing some movie. But
yeah,
I love him. And he is truly one of the funniest people on the planet.
Well, I have the clip here.
So let's set it up with the clip, especially for the people listening. So it's a clip of Nick Swardson and Theo Von talking. The title says Nick Swardson and Brendan Schaub both like fajitas. Yeah. So fajitas, and I had a bit on fajitas. And remember, my girl's Mexican, right? So
you wrote a lot of food, Mexican food jokes.
Yeah, a ton of them. So the fajitas, when I was saying how embarrassing it is, like ordering bottle service at the club, like when you order fajitas, and you're like, geez, like it's embarrassing. Yeah. Like everyone
Steve Byrne has a joke
and
like
watches you. I'm sure. So I do. It's not a special anything. I do that bit at the Comedy Store. I wrote it, I don't know, right before I went on, right? So I do that bit maybe 3 times, and then some fan was like, "Oh, that's like Nick Swardson's bit." I go, "Nick has a fajita bit." He goes, "Yeah." And this is what people don't realize: the comedy community is pretty tight knit. We all know each other. So all I do is Nick as a friend is text him and go, "Hey man, heard you have a fajita bit. I have a new bit that I wrote about fajitas. You have a fajita bit?" He goes, "I have something like it. What's your premise?" I go, "Fajitas, how embarrassing it is when you order fajitas. It's sizzling. It's like ordering bottle service at the club." He goes, not exactly like mine. I can see how people see it." I went, "All good. Not going to do it anymore."
The way that Brendan Schaub tells the story is that he was working on that fajitas bit for a while. He actually did the bit 3 times until another comic, a friend of his, told him that the joke sounded very familiar to something that Nick was working on, that a joke that Nick had. So obviously, all of them being very close to each other, having access to each other, Brendan Schaub actually texted Nick. He texted Nick and told him, "Hey Nick, I'm working on a bit about fajitas. People are telling me that it's very similar to yours. Just wanted to check." Nick responded, and said, "Let me hear it." Brendan Schaub explained what the joke was about and explained the premise. And Nick said, "I can see why people think it's a similar joke, but it's fine or whatever." After that, according to Brendan Schaub, he said that he stopped doing that joke and he never did it again. If that is 100% true, which it sounds like it is, I don't know why he would lie about that. It's not that big of a deal. If that's 100% true, that means Nick is lying. He literally brought it up on Theo Von's podcast, knowing that it's a lie, knowing that Brendan Schaub and him talked about the joke. So it's not just a situation where he heard that people were saying that that Brendan Schaub stole his joke. Him and Brendan Schaub actually talked about it, which is crazy. I don't know if I'm just looking too deep into this, but Nick is clearly lying, right? Not only that, but Brendan Schaub also said that he called Theo Von to talk about the situation. And as you will also notice, it sounds like Theo Von was on Schaub's side.
Parallel think I've had is this fajita bit, but like Theo said, I talked to Theo yesterday. He's like, hold on, you think you are the only two comics that ordered fajitas and got embarrassed?
Yeah.
He's like, dude, even before Nick, I've heard a fajita bit.
People who steal jokes get found out.
Yeah.
And essentially saying that, what, does Nick think that Brendan Schaub and Nick are the only ones to ever try fajitas? Which I completely agree with, and I actually said that on my previous video, how the fajita joke is not this complex, high IQ joke that took months and months to come up with. You know, it's more of a commentary on a food, on a very popular food in California. I mean, everybody has had fajitas, and I'm sure a lot of people think the same thing, because that's the entire purpose of the presentation when ordering the fajitas. It's, you know, you bring them out, you let everybody in the restaurant know that you order the fajitas. They can see it, they can hear it, they can smell it. So then likely they can order some fajitas as well. The next part I think is pretty cool, because Brian Callen and Brendan Schaub were essentially reacting to Nick, you know, on the podcast. And I think that's actually the right move. I think that's the right direction moving forward that they should take, you know, addressing the drama and any type of hate that they get. Because otherwise, when they ignore it and they try to play like nothing's going on, it just makes it all worse, in my opinion. And like I mentioned before, the interesting thing is, why did Nick decide to bring it up now? Is he really that innocent that he didn't think much of it and just brought it up in a conversation? Or was he maybe looking at the attention that Kalila is receiving and then maybe wanted some of that? He maybe thought that he could expose or make some drama between them and get people talking about him, which in a way it worked, because I mean, here we are talking about him. But I don't think, knowing what we know now, I don't think that was the best move. And one more thing, when I saw this back in the day, I didn't think much of it. I didn't really think it was joke stealing from Brendan Schaub, because let's be honest, if there is any evidence out there of Brendan Schaub stealing a joke from another comic, come on, we all know that it would be out there and Brendan Schaub would not be able to get away from it. So, but that is all we have for today. See ya.